Alright, we're going to bake again this morning. Today we are making a blackberry lime scone that will be glazed with a lime glaze. So, ingredients, what we got going on today. I've got a cup of cream, heavy whipping cream. Okay, I've got 3 ounces of butter, which is about 3/8 of a cup of butter. I've got a heaping cup of blackberries. Those will start to make about a full cup once they start thawing out a bit. A couple limes. This one looks funny because I've already zested it. So I've got my microplane over my sugar, which is about 3 tablespoons of sugar. That's the lime zest. 2 cups of flour, sifted with the spoon. You know how we put it in the last time we put it in the measuring cup, didn't scoop directly into the flour. Yep. 1 tablespoon of baking powder. That's my measuring cup and measuring spoons, as well as my pastry blender. So let's get started. Try to see if I can show you how to do this with one hand. Alright, so the camera hand is going to hold a zester. Haha, this is good. Okay, so you just take that. You see it's peeling the zest off of there, and it's putting it into the bowl. Alright, so do that to the rest of the lime until it starts looking like that. Okay. Quick thing about the microplanes is keep your fingers away from these teeth because they will eat your fingers up, and you don't want any of that in your sugar because that's not what we're serving today. So keep your fingers away from the blade as much as possible, okay? Oh man, that smells good. Alright, so we've got our lime zest in the bowl with the sugar. Just kind of stir that around a little bit. Get that turned into a lime sugar. Alright, yeah. Pretty much what you're trying to do is trying to get the oils that are on the side of the bowl where you zested it, get that into the sugar as well, because that is where some of the flavor is as well. Stir that, let that set for a little bit. Take your limes and roll them, because this will help break up the membranes inside so you can juice them easier. It takes a lot of effort. There we go. You want to be able to squeeze them. Okay. All right. So stay there. Okay. It's all right. So we're going to move on to the butter. It's better that your butter should be... Oh, no. I lied. No. Not your butter. I lied. Flour first. Okay. Got your flour in there. And then your baking powder. A tablespoon of that in there. All right. Take your pastry blender. Stir it all up. I'm just kind of incorporating all of this stuff in here. Alright, and once that's all mixed in, you don't want to have like clumps of the baking powder on top or whatever. So once that's mixed in, stay there. Alright, we're going to do the butter. Make sure your butter is cold. It's better to have cold butter because you want the flakiness. That'll help with the flakiness of the pastry. And if it does get warm, we can chill it before we bake it, so that'll help too. But that's not a necessity. Okay. So, once you got your butter in there, cover a little bit of flour. Come on, get in there. And then you start smushing, which it's breaking up the butter a bit. So you want like little pea size. Now, I've seen people do this with their hands, which is fine. You can totally do that with your hands. I don't, because my hands usually run warm and I don't want to melt the butter than it already is. Alright, so this is really hard to do one-handed. I gotta hold on to the bowl. Alright, so I'm gonna pause it. Alright, so the butter has been incorporated. There's a little bit still on my pastry blender, but that's okay. Now, it should look like this. Little pieces in there. That's what you're shooting for, okay? Now that's done. We'll go ahead and put our blackberries in there. It's okay if they're still frozen. It'll be just fine. Okay? Make sure you get those covered in flour before you start adding your cream. Okay? Just like so. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it from flinging all over the place and keep you centered, but Alright, so those are in there. I'm going to go ahead and do about 3/4 cup of cream just to see where we are. If we need to add more, we can always add more, but I start with 3/4 cup, okay? Almost. A little bit more. Okay. All right. So then we'll start stirring that in. And this is where the fun part gets. You can use a spatula, but I usually like to get in with my hands. But I'm going to put gloves on because I hate having to get the dough out from in between my fingers. So I'm going to put gloves on, and I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. All right, so I did about a cup of cream in there, and it is not enough. So what you want this to do is you want it to form a ball and stay in a ball. And it's close, but I still got all that dry stuff at the bottom. So I would say probably about a 1/4 cup more, and then we'll see what it looks like after that, okay? All right, so 1/4 cup more. It's starting to come together, forming a dough. Perfect, okay. Don't mess with it too much, because the longer you mix it, the tougher it gets. The gluten start forming, and you want it still to be tender. So, all right, so I place this on my parchment lined cookie sheet, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's on the parchment. All right, so that is that on our parchment. It looks really fun. We're gonna bake that at a 425-degree oven for 16 minutes, probably 16 to 18, just to see where it is. We want to make sure that when you put the toothpick in the middle, it comes out clean. Okay. All right, so come back in a few minutes. So hello, and this is the mighty scone. I know, right? It looks like a big giant cookie. I cut it into 6 wedges after it's glazed. Okay, so I baked this at 425 degrees, approximately 400 to 425, in that range, for 18.5 to 19 minutes. It should spring back. Yep, I did the toothpick test, and it came out clean, so that means it's done. All right, we're gonna let this cool for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna move on to glazing it. Now the glaze right here is the juice of those 2 limes that we zested earlier, and about a cup of powdered sugar, cup to a cup and a half powdered sugar. Just, you want this consistency, not too thick, not too thin, but enough to make a nice shiny glaze on top. I don't know what other word to use, but glaze. All right, so let that cool, glaze it, enjoy it with a cup of Earl Grey tea, whatever your little heart desires. Happy baking, guys. Enjoy. And there is the finished project of the scone. Isn't it beautiful? Yeah, that nice glaze, that beautiful blackberry right there. Yum. All right. Yep, that whole big scone that I had on that cookie sheet, cut it into 6 wedges. Well, pretty decent sized, I think, anyway. Sorry, the shadow. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and happy baking.